Welcome to the lesson walkthrough for Chapter 1, Lesson 1.2.1. In class today, we worked on multiple representations with a given quantity of pennies that we had. So every group had a different amount of pennies. And as you remember, your job in class was to see if you could find a way to represent that number in an easier way so that everybody could figure out how many you had. So whether that would be you organize it into some type of rectangular array, or you group it according to some type of rule that you decided with your group to see if it made it a little bit easier to count. And every group did a very fantastic job with that. The review and preview today will be going through question 146, as you see right here, question 147, as you see right here, question 148, which is the word problem right here, and then also question 149A, which you see right here. I'm just going to grab my highlighter here so you know that we're focusing on question 146. Question 146 says, match each of the following descriptions of pennies with its possible numeric expression. Then calculate the value of each expression. One of the things that you hopefully remember is when we see the parentheses in class, like example right here around the 12 and between the 8 and the 12 actually, that's actually telling us like 8 groups of 12, or it's very similar to, it's exactly the same as writing 8 times 12. It's just a new way of writing it. My numbers really aren't that clear on here, so I do apologize for that. So what you're going to do for this one, for 146, you're going to look at these 4 different expressions that they have right here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to read through A, B, C, and D for you, and you're just going to put whether or not that expression goes along with the description, okay? So for the first one, for 1A, it says 11 piles of 10 pennies with 7 leftover pennies, okay? So imagine that in your head. You have 11 piles of 10 pennies with 7 leftover pennies. Which of these expressions up here at the top shows you 11 piles of 10 pennies with 7 left over? Hopefully you were able to figure out that the number 3 goes along with A. Number 3 is showing us 11 groups of 10 pennies with the 7 left over. Okay, so I would say A is 3. Then my job is to calculate the value of each expression, okay? So my job is to figure out what 11 times 10 plus 7 is, okay? You might already know that 11 times 10 is 110, plus 7 would be 117. So that's how you're going to go about solving it. So I'm going to go ahead and read through B, C, and D for you, and feel free to pause that at any time as you're looking over the expressions and trying to figure out which one matches. So let's look here at 146B. A rectangular array of pennies that is 9 pennies long and 12 pennies wide, with 5 leftover pennies. Figure out if it's expression 1, 2, or 4 at this time. And don't forget to solve. For C, it says 8 stacks of 12 pennies with 7 leftover pennies. So out of the 3 that are left over, which one would make sense? And the last one, D, it says a rectangular array of pennies that is 6 pennies wide and 20 pennies long with 5 leftover pennies. Decide which expression at the top goes along with it. And again, don't forget to evaluate those expressions and solve when you are finished. When you're ready to move on to 147, press play again. Moving on to 147, let me just erase what I have up here so that it doesn't follow us on the screen. We're going to be looking at 147. 147 says write one whole number or one fraction in each blank to make each statement true. For 147A, it says 100 pennies equals how many dollars? Okay, you're going to fill in the blank. Hopefully you know that 100 pennies equals $1, right? The next one says, for B, 200 pennies equals how many dollars? That's another whole number answer. For C, D, and E, you are going to have a fraction answer, okay? Because you will not have enough pennies to equal one whole dollar or more than that. So for 147C, it says 50 pennies equals how many dollars? If you need some assistance, let's go see what the help option provides for us. Again, this is 147C. 147C's hint says this problem is similar to the first two. Remember to compare the number of pennies in this problem to the total number of pennies in a dollar. It also will provide you with the answer if you need to go that far. But think about it this way, okay? If you have 50 pennies, how many dollars would that equal? You only have 50 out of the 100 pennies that you need. So if you wanted to express it as a fraction, you could easily say 50 over 100. Let's see the answer that they give you. 50 pennies equals 50 over 100. That hint will help you solve D and E. So let's go back to the living textbook here and look at D and E. D says 10 pennies equals how many dollars? So out of 100 pennies, how many of those pennies do you have? They want your answer written in a fraction. So figure it out. 10 pennies equals what fraction of a dollar? And then finally for E, 1 penny equals what fraction of a dollar? Your job is to figure that out now. When you're ready to move on, we can move on to 148. 148 is a word problem, and you'll see it here. The entire word problem we are going to be responsible for. It says, Matthew's mother asked him to go to the store for her. To get to the store, he walked 7 city blocks. He caught the bus and rode 13 blocks. He got off and walked 1.5 blocks to the store. He purchased the items his mother wanted and returned home the same way. How many total blocks did he travel? One of the things that you're going to want to think about is you're going to want to think about either keeping a list of where he traveled or drawing some type of a picture. For me, I'm going to try making a list, okay? So his first place that he went was when he went to the store. So to get to the store, he walked 7 city blocks. That's pretty important. He caught the bus and he rode 13 blocks. He got off and he walked 1.5 blocks to the store. That's where he purchased the items his mom wanted, or he bought them. How many total blocks did he travel? Keep in mind too, it also says he returned home the same way. So he went there and he came back. That's important to remember. So with my list, I figured out that he had walked 7 city blocks. Then he rode the bus 13 city blocks, and let me set this up a little bit better here for you. Then he rode 13 city blocks, and he got off, and he walked 1.5 blocks to the store. 1.5 is also equal to 1.5. If you use your calculator, you'll be able to figure out how far it took him to get there, or how far he traveled to get there. But remember, he returned home. So however many blocks it took him to get there, it took him the same amount to go home. So don't forget to consider that when you're answering the question, how many total blocks did he travel? Because he did go home. So take that into consideration and feel free to use a calculator to solve. I'm just going to erase the rest of my stuff here. And you'll be able to see that we are ready to move on to 149A, which is our last problem that we are going to be going over. So 149A, the directions are which numbers make these division problems correct. Replace each box and triangle with a single digit number. Okay, so if you look here, you can see we're dividing a number by 6 to get 12. What is the reverse of division? Hopefully you know that it's multiplication. So what you're basically trying to do is you are trying to figure out what number we divided by 6 to get 12. Think about what you know about multiplication to be able to figure out what that missing number is. So that is your goal for 149. Remember, if you do need any help at all, go on and use the ebook help hints. Here you go. It says, first hint, which I already gave to you, is remember that multiplication is the inverse or the opposite of division. So if you're looking at a division problem with missing information, you're going to want to see if you can use your multiplication to try and figure out what that division problem is trying to ask you. Best of luck. Any other questions? You can ask me sometime tomorrow, hopefully before 5th hour. But other than that, best of luck to you on the homework for 1.2.1.